Welcome to episode 11 of the Randy Wilson Podcast. I'm your host, Randy Wilson. And before we get into today's guest, I want to first give out some thank yous. I want to thank all the supporters, the people who have liked, the people who have subscribed. I want to go back and thank Nicholas F. again for an incredible interview that we just completed. And again, remember, in an effort to support podcasts, you have to push a button. You have to like, share, you have to subscribe, you have to make people aware, help them become informed. Use your social media platforms. You have them for a reason. You can either post pictures of your food and all the great things that you do in your life every day for people to just look at you, or you can do something with your social media that can actually make it impactful and that can contribute to inspiring or doing something to help someone else out. Okay, so make it work, make it effective. Remember, on this day, when you see that pop up in your social media, if it's something that today doesn't need to be occurring in your life, make your social media effective. Make an adjustment, change it. We got to make progress. All right, this podcast can be listened to on all podcast channels and viewed on YouTube, so please go and check me out. Now, today's guest. I don't know if our guest today really needs that much of an introduction. DeShauna Barber, Miss USA 2016. But extremely more than just Miss USA. When I was doing some research on DeShauna Barber, I seen Black Girl Magic come up a couple times. And there's a lot of people out there that really look to DeShauna as a mentor, as a leader. She's a public speaker. She's a servant. She serves in the military reserve. She has a lot of credentials. DeShauna was crowned Miss USA 2016, and she represented the United States at Miss Universe in 2016, where she also placed amongst the top 9 finalists, if I'm correct. Now, if I mess up, DeShauna, feel free to interrupt me, okay? Because this here is new for me. I was interested in doing this because it's going to help. Most of my following is men. And it's going to help me reach a demographic of females who obviously are going to, look to you in a great way. Virginia State University alumni. I also attended Virginia State as well.
I didn't know
Long
that.
time ago. Yep. DeShauna graduated with a degree in business management. I believe you have other education, master's degree, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Tell me where that's from.
It's University of Maryland University College. It's
Okay.
Master's of Science in Computer Information Systems.
Okay. So y'all see she's smart. She's smart, and then we're going to learn about how she's utilizing that education in the military, because I think there is, in some ways, what do you do in the military exactly?
Logistics. So
Does those skills transfer?
kind of. I mean, back when I was a previous unit that I was working for, there were a lot of computer systems we were using. So, but
Okay.
I think right now it kind of doesn't translate because I'm actually at Howard University's ROTC program. I'm one of their cadre members.
Okay.
So I help teach leadership courses to the cadets that will be future officers of the Army.
Okay,
So,
great. Well, it's a lot for us to learn here. One of the things with DeShauna that I've paid attention to and learning about her, and mainly I've paid attention to it through her social media, is that she's an entrepreneur. She's not only, she has a job, but she's out here doing public speaking engagements across the country, and I'm not talking about, at your community middle school or YMCA. I mean, she's on some platforms right now where she's really showing how she's using her platform. And we're interested today to kind of get into learning a little bit more about those speaking engagements, particularly for me, just because I do a lot of speaking engagements, just not on the level that you do.
Okay.
So I feel like there's a lot for a lot of people to gain when, you're speaking from platforms that you're speaking from. So if you don't mind, DeShauna, kind of share with us a little bit about how you came into pageantry.
So I came into pageantry in 2009. I was between my freshman and sophomore year at Virginia State. And I was back living with my dad in Woodbridge during the summer. I was working at Target, and a lady that works for one of the local pageant systems, she walked up to me while I was folding clothes and said that I looked like I could be the next Miss USA. She ended up convincing me to compete in my very first pageant, which I did. And I fell in love with it, and I was doing it for around 7 years before I actually won for the first time, and then obviously went on to win Miss USA. So I know you have a lot of male followers. So for those that don't know, when you watch the Miss USA pageant, you'll see 51 states, or you'll see 50 states in the District of Columbia. So you have to win your state first before you go on to compete for Miss USA. So a lot of people see the final product of all the hard work. They don't see how much effort and time it takes into just winning your state, because you're going against between 15 to sometimes 200 girls just to win, like Miss Virginia USA, Miss DC USA, etc. So it took me 7 years just to win my state pageant. I was competing every year for 7 years.
Now, you grew up in the military.
Correct.
But did you compete in DC only, or did you compete in other
I
parts of the
competed in
country?
Virginia as well.
Okay.
My first 4 years were in Virginia, and then 2 years were in DC, and then I won on the third.
What's different about Virginia and DC at that level?
DC is very black girl friendly. DC, almost probably maybe 80 to 90% of the girls that have won out of DC have been black.
Okay.
If you go to other states like Virginia, it's a very rare moment for a black girl to win. There's only been maybe 2 or 3.
In Virginia?
In Virginia.
Okay.
Yeah, there's only been I think it's only been 2, honestly. I know Desi Williams was my year. And I think there was one other black girl in 2000. I think the year 2000 or the year 2001 that had won. I think they have had... No. Oh, Pat Smith. There's been 3.
Okay.
There's been 3 black girls to win Miss Virginia USA.
Okay. It may not be the best stereotype to make this statement, and they're probably like, "Oh God, what's he about to say?" But to me, just being an observer, and again, we'll get into learning more about Miss USA and Miss America and what the differences are. But to me, it appears like, just based off the Essence magazines and the stuff that you see in the grocery store, that there are more people of color winning now.
Correct.
And I almost feel like that's part of their job also. Not that I don't believe that. I mean, I believe people of color are the most beautiful people, most intelligent. There's a lot that comes with that. I'm not trying to say otherwise. It's just, but the majority of the world is of color. However, we're often referenced as being minorities. But if you look at people of color, so I'm not, to me, it shouldn't be a surprise, but I feel like in that arena, just based off the observation, I'm not surprised now if there's 10 girls up there and more of them are people of color. Not now. I think 10 years ago, if you saw 1 or 2, you'd be like, great, it's that girl. You remember her?
I think that pageantry is transitioning, but specifically the Miss Universe organization, which is over the Miss USA pageant. They came under new ownership. So I was the first, it's IMG is the owners. I was the first Miss USA crowned under new ownership. The previous owner was Donald Trump. So they have, IMG is initially started off as a modeling agency, and they're one of the first modeling organizations that are international modeling organization that has a disabled model, that has a model, Halima Aden, who's like the first hijab Muslim model to grace the cover of Sports Illustrated. She's been on a couple other things too.
Yeah, I've seen that.
So IMG is a very progressive organization that's really focused on diversity and inclusion, and not just in race, but in religion and also people with disabilities.
Okay.
So when they took over, it was perfect for me. And I think that under previous ownership, I don't know if diversity has ever been the focus of what they want, stereotypical Miss USA to look like. So Miss USA out of the past 4 years, 3 of the Miss USAs, including myself, have been black. Now, when you go over to Miss America organization, now that's a different story.
Okay.
Diversity is not something that they have had a lot of.
I think let's go ahead and let our audience know. What is the difference between Miss USA and Miss America?
So Miss America's older. Miss America was founded in like 1912, 13, 14, whatever. Not officially sure when they were founded, because that's not my lane. But Miss America was founded in the early 1900s, and they had a issue where they, I I think they removed the swimsuit portion, or something happened where they had an issue with the swimsuit sponsor back in like 1960 something, I think 1964. And the swimsuit sponsor and the Miss America organization got into some sort of disagreement. And eventually the swimsuit company branched off and created their own pageant, which eventually became the Miss USA pageant.
Okay.
So that's one. Miss America's older by like 50 years.
Okay.
Secondly, Miss America has a talent. Miss USA does not, thank God, because I do not have a talent to offer them. So I was really happy that they don't have a talent.
Well, we're going to argue that. I mean, clearly...
There's something out there, but their talents are usually based in, like, singing, piano,
so you can't,
dancing.
So you don't sing?
I don't sing.
You don't dance?
I don't dance like that. No, I don't know how to dance like that.
But you speak very well.
I speak well, but I mean...
master communicator.
Right.
And that's probably a requirement of Miss USA. I mean, I'm assuming it's philanthropy, community service.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think the type of talent that they're looking for that actually wins the competition is not something I'd be able to provide them. Okay. So I'm appreciative of the fact that that's not the organization that I joined. Also, the Miss America organization is a nonprofit. They offer a hefty amount of scholarships. Miss USA is not. It's a for-profit organization. Miss USA, we don't all necessarily have a look, but we kind of do have a look. We're all pretty tall, slim, females, ones that can probably transition into modeling. Okay. Miss America, they usually pick the girl next door. Okay. She doesn't have a certain look to her. And what else is there? Miss America, I would consider to be a very traditional pageant. Miss USA, not so traditional. Okay. So that's the best that I can give it without like throwing shade or not throwing shade or putting one tier above the other. Yeah. But Miss America, in my opinion, has not had a lot of diversity when it comes to its winners. Miss USA, we are becoming more diverse. There's still so much that we can do in terms of being a more diverse organization. But we have already made that transition into being an organization where it's no surprise to us now if Miss USA is black. Now, Miss America, on the other hand, they crowned the current Miss America Nia, and I was very shocked that she won, and that's because they have not had black girls to win. Their last black girl was Carmen. I forgot. She was Virginia. She was 2000, I think she was like 2008 or 9. Mm-hmm. I know I'm going to get her name wrong, but me and her, she just judged the Miss DC pageant. Gosh, I forgot her name. Anyway, the last time that they had a black Miss USA was 10 years ago. But we also have to, and it's not always based on the national competition. What people don't realize, you have to win your state first. Mm-hmm. And the Miss America organization, Miss USA, are very much like a McDonald's or Burger King. You have people that own the franchise, so they own the state level. Okay. So if you're not crowning black girls, then of course, nationally, Miss USA can't be black if only 3 out of the 51 girls on the stage are black. The likelihood is very low. So it's not just the responsibility, in my opinion, of the national level. It's also the responsibility of the states to be crowning women of color. Yeah. So you have states like Mississippi is a state that has yet to crown a black Miss Mississippi USA. Wow. And majority of the girls that compete there are black. So you have a lot of discrimination that goes on, especially at the state level. Wow. Mm-hmm. Interesting. That's I'm surprised a little bit. Mississippi has a lot of black people. It's a lot of black people in Mississippi. Well, so did you ever participate in Miss America? No. Never? Mm-hmm. No desire? No. It's just not your thing? Yeah. So there is a little friendly competition, I imagine, between USA and America. Yeah, there is. But I have a lot of my, I've got a few friends that were former Miss Americas. So I like America. It's not a pageant I would ever do. Well, Michael helped me understand that Miss USA gets to go compete for international and Miss America don't. Right. So it seems like I'd much rather have the national... The international exposure, No, and that's no. I'm sorry, I throw shade all over that. You ain't got to. I'd rather be Mr. USA than be Mr. America. Yeah, no, I agree. Like a superhero right now. I think that the expansion is better. I think that you get way more opportunities. Yeah. But I do think that Miss America is so educationally focused that I'm jealous of that part of it,
Yeah.
these girls get hundreds of thousands of scholarships, which I would have loved and not have to deal with my student loans that I have right now.
Yeah.
So they've got their educational aspect, and then we've got the aspect where a lot of Miss USAs and Miss Universe is going to become models, going to become TV hosts, actresses. So it depends on the direction that someone wants to go.
Do you have to be single to be Miss America or Miss USA? Miss
You have
USA.
to be unmarried. You cannot have been married
Okay.
or be married at the time.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So not only you have to be single, no prior marriage.
No.
I guess I figured that just based off the Miss part, but it
Yeah.
seems like in today's society that means absolutely nothing anymore because like
What?
I'm watching if I was watching like say when they having like these trials and like remember when the Facebook guy, what's his name, Zuckerberg,
Yeah.
he's on trial, like and
Right.
it was in the United States government was interviewing him.
Right.
The people sometimes, the women sometimes that would speak, they would say miss this, miss that, miss. All of them were miss.
Mm-hmm.
There were no misses.
Mrs. Right.
And my wife was telling me that it was because you don't want to give the person who's being interviewed probably they don't need to be assuming anything about you other than just your role.
Right.
This is your role. This is your profession. This is what I'm here for. I am in a hot seat.
Right.
I don't need to Mrs. you or miss you. That could probably come off, condescending or disrespectful.
Probably. I think for someone to assume that I'm married or any woman is married is almost setting a standard of what a woman should and shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely don't think that to assume that a woman is married, it's
Yeah.
almost like placing a title on them that
Yeah.
maybe they don't even want.
Yeah.
So, I think to me, it's respectful to just call someone Ms. unless they correct you.
Mm-hmm.
And in pageantry, there's been just a whole argument, especially at the Miss Universe level. They had their first transgender Miss. They had their first transgender Miss to compete at the Miss Universe pageant. Miss Spain was transgender.
Okay.
So they were arguing the fact that how is it that we can have a trans woman win or compete, be qualified, but you all won't take married women and you won't take women that have had children.
Seems like a good argument.
Yeah, it's actually a really solid argument. I won't lie. But I think that we have to also look at the fact that if a woman is married or has kids, her obligations are different.
Yeah.
When you're Miss USA, you need to have an incredibly free schedule. And I was in a relationship at the time, and it was very hard to maintain that relationship. I can't even imagine being married with kids.
Wow.
So being able to travel 365 days out of the year and you have a family to take care of is very unrealistic.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we also, everyone has their feelings on it, but I do think that when we're looking at trans women competing for pageantry, we have to look at the fact that they are a woman at the time. Now, people are like, oh, naturally born and stuff like that used to be the rule, but they changed the rule to where you don't have to be naturally born. You have to be a woman and have all the parts at the time. So
when you're competing for a crown,
mm-hmm.
is it fair for me to make the statement that you're constantly having to overcome stereotypes?
Yeah, I think so. I think that pageant girls have this stupid, naive stereotype placed on us. I don't know. People were very shocked at the amount of education that I do have.
Mm-hmm. Does your competitors have the amount of education that you have typically, or no?
Probably 80% of them had bachelor's degrees.
Okay.
Only myself and I think one other, Virginia actually, Desi, I think me and her were the only ones that had master's degree. There might have been a few others, but I think we were the only ones that had a master's degree. No, I think 2 other girls had a master's degree. So they were surprised not at the bachelor's degree, they were surprised at the master's degree. Because I don't know. But I also was on the older side in comparison. We age out. In Miss USA, you age out at 27. A lot of the girls that I competed against were like 22, 23.
Gotcha.
So
but you also had an advantage on them as well, though, I would imagine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I
goes
think
both
the
ways,
education
huh?
is good. Yeah. I think the education went a long ways and the military went a long ways because as pageant girls, we're always trying to break the stereotype. Like, we're not all models. We're not all actresses. Some of us serve in the military. Some of us are full-time speakers. Some of us, like, our career fields and our professions are very unique. So to assume that a pageant girl is a certain way is something that we've always been working and striving to break that.
Yeah, and the reason why I asked that question was because with Miss USA is not about talent particularly.
Right.
I don't know how long the competition lasts. How long does the competition last? What we see on TV is more than just that.
Yeah, it's usually a 2 to 3 week
Okay,
competition.
so the reason why I asked the question is in learning how they learn you,
Right.
you can't just base it off a swimsuit, or you just can't base it
Yeah.
off a 30-second spill. Like, there's a lot of people. Look, I almost feel like they should make it a requirement to have some level of education, because
Mm,
if they didn't with some of these pageants, I'm not saying Miss USA. I'm just saying, but like based off the judges and even based off the host.
yeah.
If we
But
talk about, like, some of these people are just going to get in their position if if they don't have some talents or some documented experience and you just base it off looks, then it's what's different than looking at Miss Anything and an Instagram model.
But that's what it's always been. I mean, before IMG took over, they would never highlight really the background of the women. They say where they're from and their favorite color and stuff like that. And this is not to throw shade at
Yeah.
former winners, but I don't know if we really got a chance to really embrace the background of a lot of the women. If you go through, they just who's the prettiest, who has the
Yeah.
best gown. So I think that knowing that we are focused a little bit more on the substance of the woman and that transition into the new age pageant girl is a great thing, because I think we should always highlight that person's success and showing that they're different and not always basing it purely on what the girl looks like.
Was there a pageant lady that you looked up to coming up?
Yeah, definitely Miss USA 2008. Crystal Stewart was my favorite Miss USA, and she just so happened to be my judge at Miss USA. So that was a real.
That was a surreal moment, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, it was beyond surreal that she was my judge and I went on to win. So she was definitely one of the Miss USAs that kept me going, because her story is very similar to mine, where she competed for 5, 6, 7 years before she won Texas. And, after competing for so many years, I realized that it's going to take tenacity and persistence and all that. And her story is one of the things that helped me continue to fight and continue. And what I realized is that sometimes it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with the pageant, which is why I thought it was important for me to leave Virginia and compete in DC, because I do feel like there are some states that have some changes that they need to make.
It worked out for you, obviously.
It did. It definitely did. We have to not necessarily think that we can't accomplish things, but you have to also realize that some states are looking for a certain look, and I don't think I fit that mold. So I thought it was very important for me to go somewhere else where I felt like.
What's
I could
that
be
look?
seen. I definitely don't know if they wanted the winner to be black when I was competing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think for years they have been just crowning blonde hair, blue eyes.
Understood.
So I don't think that they wanted someone with my background or someone that looked like me.
One of the things I'm liking here in this conversation, and I'm hoping that the audience is recognizing, is that you don't seem to have a problem to talk candidly.
Yeah. No.
I'm definitely being. I'm not going to ask you anything out the way, but I think that there's a lot of people in positions or on platforms, whether they're presidents but they don't act presidential, they're directors but they don't direct appropriately, that don't always carry out and speak the things that a younger generation needs to hear. Right?
Right.
People need to hear that the reality of the fact, yes, some states don't want to accept me because of the color of my skin,
Right.
or the texture of my hair, or whatever it is. So
Yeah.
I like the fact that you're willing to. Let me segue that. So Miss USA 2016 was 4 years ago.
What is
Right?
it? What
Don't
year
get my
is
math
it? 3
on-
years ago.
Was it 3? God bless. Shouldn't have had that drink before.
No
So
worries.
3 years ago. But the thing is that that's just one area of success. To me, was
Right.
more impressive. I mean, quite frankly, a lot of the men, they're going to care about watching it because, oh, okay. We're back in Richmond. They see the city behind us. You're visiting. You went to Virginia State.
Right.
Okay. So, there's a lot of people in this area that's familiar with it. There's a lot of people across the country. But I'm just speaking to men. Men this is going to be more informative, more educational. Oh,
Right.
that's her?
Yeah.
Because a lot of us are ignorant to knowing anything about what goes into that. What I think is most impressive is that you've taken this and now you've created your own platform.
Thank you.
And so I'm interested to learn more about what you're doing now,
Yeah.
the success that has came from that, the opportunities you have, and what's the future? What's the goal for DeShauna Barber?
So
in 2020, the year of vision?
yeah, 2020 it sounds so far away, but it's really not. It's only a few months out. It's crazy. I think right now my focus has been on my motivational speaking career. So
Yes.
coincidentally, the agency that owns the Miss Universe organization is the agency that also represents me as a speaker. So they have a modeling section and an acting section, and then they also have a speakers
Let me
agency
make sure I
under
understand that.
them
So the agency that represents Miss USA as it
that
pertains,
owns.
they own.
So
Okay.
IMG owns the Miss Universe organization, which Miss USA falls under that.
Okay.
So IMG is this huge, like, jack of all trades agency that has so many different bureaus in it. So to include their literacy, literacy. I think I'm correct on that. Their literacy department, which has obviously books and authors that they represent. They have their modeling agency, they have their acting agency, then they have their speakers bureau. So they represent a bunch of motivational speakers, to include myself. So I auditioned for them while I was still Miss USA, and they loved it and decided to go ahead and contract me. And now they send me all over the country, and I speak all over. So I've
Oh,
had.
that's great.
It's a blessing. I just spoke for Southeastern Grocers and Coca-Cola actually a week and a half ago. So that was like probably one of my biggest gigs. I've spoken for Coca-Cola before, and Dollar General. They sponsored that. I spoke for Bacardi 3 months ago. I spoke at their headquarters. And I've just had the opportunity to speak all over. And
Good.
it's been a huge blessing for me. My probably looking forward in the future is writing a book. I've already started it. So I'm hoping that I can get this book off the ground by next summer. And, what's so very interesting about when people ask, what do you want in the future? And I always say that, it's nothing better but more confusing than when you have a goal list and you accomplish everything on your goal list and you're trying to make up stuff to aspire to do in the future. So everything that I've ever wanted, I've been able to knock down. So I'm at a point in my life where I've accomplished everything that I've wanted to accomplish, and I'm trying to figure out what's next. So the list is very small right now because it's like I'm making up stuff. But I know there's 3 things for sure is the book. I want to own an event space in Atlanta, and I want to purchase my house in Atlanta. So that's the 3 things, I guess, that's on the goals looking forward.
Atlanta's a great place.
I'm excited. My sister's been trying to make me come down there for a long
I feel like
time.
it's the city of women. I mean, yeah, it's a lot of women. Women are very powerful and strong in demand in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely a very large population of
Yes,
women in
yes.
Atlanta.
Yes.
I agree.
So, there's a lot of people out there who is in the speaking world. Are you saying that getting what are the explain the type of agencies? I mean, you're obviously contracting with one, but can you give examples of other types of agencies that are out there that people need to maybe do research on or learn how? Because that's a vehicle. I think a lot of people just go out there and they consult, they contract, they use their degrees to in their areas of expertise to go in a
Right.
certain area to focus, but they never are going to get on the platforms that you are if they're not having someone probably behind them that's able to endorse that. Like, is there other agencies out there that you can speak to?
Well, kind of. I think especially for speakers, I think a speakers bureau is really good to have. But you do have some agencies and some speakers bureaus where their fee, their cut is very large. So yes, some speakers, if anyone wants to go out there and speak, I would recommend getting a speakers bureau. But understanding that not all of, like, if I decide that a company reaches out to me and says, hey, I want to book you, if they don't meet a certain threshold of money, my agency does not want it because it's just not worth it money-wise.
Yeah, because
them.
someone else got to get paid as well.
Right. Someone else has to get paid. So if they're only taking 15-20% and you're booking a gig that's $2,000 or $3,000, that's not really worth the logistical effort that goes into planning it.
Gotcha.
So there's a good amount of speaking gigs that I book myself because the amount is not big enough to where my agency is interested. But my agency is so big to where they pitch me to different conferences and stuff around the country and to different clients and stuff around the country. So I always recommend that a person that wants to be a speaker has a speakers bureau. Now, to get a speakers bureau is a different topic. I always say, especially for young people that's our age, like if you're not like the Gary V's of the world.
I'm glad you put me in a category with your age too. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, the ones that's, we're not too far away, but anyone under 40 nowadays you're looked at as very young.
Yes.
And a lot of people, especially companies, don't want to hear what you have to say because they assume based on your age that you don't have anything to offer them.
Yeah.
So
I'm
I always
that.
say, it's a struggle. I always tell people to record their speeches. I think it's one of the biggest things that you can do. It's one of the only things that has helped launch my speaking career purely off of the fact that every single speaking gig I do, it's recorded. And I pick the best 1 minute out of the speech, and that's what I post online.
Gotcha.
So they get the highlight of that entire 30 to 45 minute speech, and then people start sharing it, and the next thing you know, oh wow, they sound really good, let me go and see if I can book them. And then I always make sure that at the very end of the clip I put my contact information, or at least I just put my website. So I always say with speakers that some people just go out there and they think that they're going to be able to book all these gigs, but it's like no one has. Nowadays people are so visual that they need proof that you're good. They need to be able to hear it and see it. So I think that's one of the things that Gary, I can't pronounce his name, so I just call him Gary V. And Eric Thomas, they've mastered that when it comes to speaking, is that they've gone through and they've used the digital version of promoting themselves and taking the best clip out their speeches and posting it online. So for speakers, make sure that you, have a website, you have your speakers reel. If you go to DeShauna.com, there's a speakers reel, and you can kind of just copy mine. But as you go down, you can see every speech that I've done in the past 2 years, the 1 minute clip. So I always say to have a website, to have a speakers reel that goes through all the speeches you've ever done. I always say to have a LinkedIn account. LinkedIn has been so great when it comes to getting my face out there when it comes to speaking gigs. Because a lot of people, it's so business based that speaking and, people respond, oh, this was very motivational. Everyone check it out. So that was really awesome for speaking. Now, for people that's trying to blow up their social media, trying to be bigger out there for certain things, I always think it's good to have a manager. I have a manager. Now, what comes with a manager is they're expensive sometimes. My manager only takes a cut of bookings that she's booked herself. There is no basic amount that you pay each. I forgot what you call it. When there's a certain amount that you pay them monthly, no matter what. It's their I forgot the name of it. Anyway, there's some managers, there's a certain amount of money that you pay per month. Like they might be $1,000, $1,500 that you pay per month, just period.
Gotcha.
And then on top of that, they get 15-20% of how much you make on the gigs. So I've had a manager since I gave up my crown as Miss USA. She's awesome. She's put me out there to different brands, and we've done a lot. It's
been worth the money. It's been worth the investment.
Oh yeah.
So
I'd say so.
I'm listening to this. So with the agency, they get the big checks, you get the big check cut, whatever. But it's like an artist. So like Nas came recently to Virginia Beach to the big show. He dropped in Richmond. And got some change while he was on the way to Charlotte. So it's like you still use your entrepreneurial skills to still go get the smaller checks.
Right.
You're not leaving any money on the table just because the agency's not taking it.
Exactly.
If
I don't like to turn down.
I would imagine they have to take care of you, but it's still worth the opportunity.
Right. And even then there are some gigs where they don't pay for travel. Like I've had some speaking gigs where they don't pay for travel, lodging, nothing.
Do you still take those?
It depends. So I'll go through and I'll do my research. I just had one in DC called Next Gen, and they didn't have anything to offer in terms of financial gain, but there were so many great people in the audience that it was worth it. Yeah. Okay. So it's like you also have to weigh your options. Sometimes we're not prideful, but we know our worth, and we want to say, no, you have to pay this amount. But we also have to realize that, one, not everyone has the budget. Yeah. And two, it might not be financial gain. It might just be more exposure for you. Yes. And I think when I first started speaking, I wasn't necessarily focused on the money. I was focused on getting my speakers reel together. Gotcha. So my first year as a speaker, I wasn't really making all that much. I was very, very much struggling, but it was worth it because I got so many speeches that I was able to record and all that. And it also goes to having a videographer. I always tell speakers to have a videographer. Gotcha. You have to have someone that records it, because even then I go through and have someone set up a camera and all that, but if they're not professional, you can kind of tell. Yeah. I think it's difficult to demand that an organization pays you a certain amount of money, and then they go on your website and you can tell that it's cell phone quality that has recorded your speech. Yeah. So you have to look expensive for them to treat you like you're expensive. Good. So I always make sure that my speeches, for the most part, unless it's a private unless it's a private conference, that it's recorded by a professional by a professional videographer, and that can be expensive too, because you have to fly your videographer out there, pay for their lodging. But if you're making a good amount, then it's worth it.
Well, if you're doing any business in the DMV, just a shameless plug, I'm going to definitely recommend Full Motion Media. They do very professional work.
Thank you.
Yes.
Definitely.
So tell us a little bit about your podcast, and are you managing that right now the same way as far as clips? Because I subscribed right before today, and I began checking out some clips.
Thank
I think we're kind of similar in this, it's a young podcast at this point, right? So, what's your goal with that? What's the focus? What's the plan?
So my podcast is just all about fun. Now, I did have a recent podcast that was more so of an informative podcast. But my previous episodes have just been fun stuff. I think that there are just a lot of things I like to sit around and talk and just have fun with me and my sister that host it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do a few episodes by myself. But I just think it's just somewhere for people to go where it's fun. I think I go to a lot of podcasts, and they're all very informative, and that's great. But I wanted, because my career is so serious and the things that I talk about, I just kind of wanted something that's fun and something I do at leisure. So it's really a place for people to go and just to laugh.
Gotcha.
That's all I want. You know,
Gotcha.
we talk about relationships, we talk about business, we talk about how to be happy in your circle and stuff like that. So, but we also, myself and my sister, try to make it as funny as possible, because I don't necessarily need for every platform to be based on, what can I do to improve your life and all that, kind of what can I do to make you smile today?
Yeah, it's great. You're able to engage with your audience that way, and they get to see a different side of DeShauna.
Definitely.
That's great. I'm glad. It's also good to just talk to another podcaster.
Yeah, I think so.
Because it's often interesting to see what another person goes through, what their inspirations, what their goals are. And I feel like the more collaboration that podcasters do within podcasting, in my opinion, is already more popular than radio. Radio has lost popularity now that you have to pay for it if you want to. Like, you have to pay for XM or Sirius if you want to hear more consistent music or information. Either way it goes. So podcasting, I feel like it's kind of taken a very strong role in. I'm an internet junkie. I watch YouTube. So I don't even watch television. I don't watch television at all, actually. I watch the news, but I can get all of that from the internet. So I'm really on YouTube. I'm the same controlling what I watch.
I am the exact same way. Mike can attest to this, is that I literally sit in the bed and watch documentaries all day on YouTube. So I'm 24/7 on YouTube. I don't watch television as much as I used to, but I do think podcast is great because you have access to be able to see and hear the things that you want to hear, and you can streamline it.
Yeah.
Versus turn on the radio, and it's kind of whoever's hosting is what you got to listen to.
Yeah.
So I think we're in a very on-demand type generation where we are very specific with our wants. And I think our podcast, we have to make sure that we understand someone's wants, but that, if this isn't what you're looking for, then you have 1,500 places you can go to hear what you want to hear. So it's always trying to make sure that we stay true to ourselves and our topics.
Can you go ahead and plug your podcast for the audience so they know to check you out?
It's Schooling. So it's SOMESCHOOLIN.
She's giving y'all some schooling, so if y'all need some guidance in your life, who better to get it from than Miss DeShauna Barber, Miss USA 2016.
Thank you.
DeShauna, did you meet Obama when you won Miss USA? That's not like a requirement.
No, I don't think any.
Should be. You Miss USA.
I really thought I was going to get the
opportunity. Y'all need to get after that. That's a problem right there. That is a problem. Like, Miss USA should be going to the White House. Miss America as well, just like the Los Angeles Lakers will this year. That's what needs to happen.
The way that the whole Soldier One Miss USA took over the internet, I just knew it was going to get a call from Obama, but we didn't. Sucks, but it is what it is. But I got a chance to do a lot of really cool things during my year. Meeting the Obamas would have been awesome.
You're from Chicago, or you live in Chicago?
I used to live in Chicago as of 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
I now live with that guy.
Oh, okay. Okay. We'll keep him off camera right now.
Yeah.
Obama, though. What is your problem? Obama.
But I moved to Chicago because of because of the Obamas. It's a good influential area. But I was living there only for about 8 months.
Okay, I love Chicago. It's cold.
It's a good place, but I was running into so many issues getting in and out during the winters.
Southside's rough.
Yeah, it's terrible. But
Are
I
you on the
didn't
south
think.
side? Are you on the south side?
No. I was in
Okay.
West. I was in Northwest area. I was really close to O'Hare.
I went to the south side, and people over there was like, you know what? It's not as bad as the media makes it, and I didn't
No,
really
it's pretty
see.
bad.
I mean, I know it's bad.
Yeah.
But I was like talking to all my Uber drivers.
Oh,
I was
you're
like,
not
look.
talking about weather. You're talking about
Oh no,
violence. Okay.
weather's horrible.
Okay, violence I wouldn't know because I never really went to the south side. Minus my church. My church was on the south side. But anytime I go down there, I didn't
Yeah.
have any issues.
I was just surprised that the perception of, and
Of
I'm sure.
Chicago.
Look, every area got a bad place, and I'm sure Chicago got maybe some of the worst. I get it,
Yeah.
and definitely that's the way the media portrays it. But I had a really good time,
a good
safe with
town.
my Uber drivers, and they drove me all around Chicago. Me and my mom both.
It's a good town. I just think career wise,
Mm-hmm.
when I've got contractual obligations, I have to go to this speaking gig. If
Yeah.
I'm the keynote speaker, I have to go.
Gotcha.
So I can't deal with the delays and the canceled flights because of weather. So
Yeah.
I couldn't live there any longer.
So, do you use your platform in any way to address things in politics?
No, I
No?
don't do anything politically. No. And that's because of military.
Okay.
I can't post my actual viewpoints and I have so many of them. I can't post how I feel. Anything
You cannot post how you feel
Oh,
about
no.
anything.
about politics.
Okay, about politics. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Politically have anything to do with our government officials on Capitol Hill, any of that, it's a terrible idea to post it because if it makes it back to your unit and stuff
yeah.
like that, there are people that have gotten into a lot of trouble by posting their political views. It's never, as people in the military, we try to stay very in the middle. Okay, we just keep our hands completely off of it. I don't think it helps us in terms of serving the country because it's very obviously anything political to me is very divisive. So we can't really be up in the conversation. It's not good for our professional careers, and it's just not good for the uniform in general. It's just all about America, America, America. Focus on America, and we just guard. That's our point. That's
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood. We're wrapping up toward the end here. I got a few quotes I want to read by you and get you to kind of give some feedback on, and then we're gonna play a quick little game as we end. Okay.
Okay.
As a woman in the United States Army, I think it was an amazing job by our government to allow women to integrate into every branch of the military. We are just as tough as men. As a commander of my unit, I'm powerful, I'm dedicated, and it is important that we recognize that gender does not limit us in the United States Army. When it comes to gender equality, do you feel the military is better, worse, or just like other forms of business? And if you can't answer this, I'm fine
I
with
should
it.
be able to answer it, yeah.
I don't want to do anything I'm not supposed to do. Okay. I respect the military. And first off, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
I mean, that's a big deal to me because I'll tell you like this. I believe that's being all you can be. Like, really. Like, that is, look, we live in a society where family don't even got each other's back. More or less, your neighbor looking out for you.
Yeah.
So when you go serve in the military and you're serving people that you don't know, but they're Americans,
Yeah.
man, that is commendable because there's a lot of us out here that don't belong.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's people in there that, I'm sure everyone's in there, but you probably see a lot. And that's kind of why I asked this question. Is the military any different than other forms of business when it comes to gender equality, particularly? And then race. I was curious about race as well.
We're definitely better now than we ever have been. Obviously, with so many women that are making it through Army Ranger School and all these other things, so we're allowing women, more importantly, to be able to do so many awesome things. And people always ask me this question, and I always respond because I think that the assumption is that my biggest struggle has been being black. My biggest struggle in the military has been being a woman, and that's just because the military is all men. Like we only represent maybe 10 or 15% of the population in the military, if that. So the biggest struggle has been for me making it through the ranks is being a female and making sure that now that I was Miss USA as well, having that stereotype and people know who I am, no matter where I go in the military. Whatever room I walk in, they know that I was Miss USA. and some of them want to test you. You know, they want to see how tough you are, how girly you are. So there's a lot of people I have to cuss out during my time as Miss USA, and then even now. So I definitely think that gender equality wise, we're definitely making our transitions and our changes, and we're getting better. There's always room for improvement in
Okay.
any organization, but especially in the military, there's definitely room for improvement, and having that trajectory for women to be able to make it up through the ranks.
Thank you for
So,
speaking on that. I wasn't sure. You know, I mean, you talk quite candidly.
thank you.
I don't know what you can and can't say. I mean, you're Miss USA and you're in the military. To me, it's
Yeah.
like a lot of bars around. It's like, okay, look, gotta.
I think I've built my platform even when I go to conferences and events. I'm trying to be as honest as possible.
I
I'm
think
not.
she's stunting a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a sugarcoater
Gotcha.
with anything.
Good.
So, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why I've been able to make it so far is because people can tell that I really am going to give them the honest truth. So I don't like sugarcoating
Well, I
things.
think that's great.
Thank you.
I mean, that's what I think that's what people want.
Yeah.
People want true, authentic selves. They
Yeah.
don't want a commercial version or a cartoon version of who you are.
Exactly.
They want exactly what they're looking to get. And
I agree.
part of your job is often to meet your audience right where they are.
Mm-hmm.
So my audience needs that kind of direct feedback
conversation.
like you're giving. Yeah. I think I would make an awesome actress, Barbara said. Now that I really sit back and think, I just know that I'm not meant to be in a cubicle. If you could act in anything right now, it would be on her favorite. Oh, I'm sorry. If she could act in anything right now, it would be on her favorite show, Game of Thrones. I want to be in a different world. I think
Yeah.
about Miss USA being like a superhero
Yeah.
type thing. So I have to ask you in your future, do you have any plans of pursuing acting?
I don't think so. You know, that interview I did was like when I first got crowned Miss USA, and I realized that I'm not really good with the spotlight, and that's just very surprising, I'm sure. But I'm not really a fan of the spotlight, and I realized that becoming Miss USA, I think that when you are looking from the outside in and you're seeing people with all this influence and all this clout, and you're just like, oh my gosh, that's what I want. But once you get in those shoes, it's just not very fun because, you know, the more public you are, the more open you are to receiving criticism. So, and having to walk on eggshells, be careful with everything that you have to say, and you can't go places. So, being Miss USA and even having a sash and having to walk into different rooms and events is very overwhelming. I've actually become more of a introvert after becoming Miss USA. Now I kind of sit back a little bit more because I was very overwhelmed during that year. From going from working in a cubicle and no one knowing who you are, having 800 followers on Instagram, however many I had, and then, you know, kind of just jump shotting into the public eye. It was a lot.
Yeah.
So I realized for me that speaking gigs is probably as much exposure and stage life I'm gonna get. I don't know if I want any more than that.
Gotcha. You kind of forced me to ask you two questions. I want to kind of wrap this up though. Do you look at when you get these speaking engagements? Do you look to turn them into even bigger relationships as it pertains to consulting?
Yes, you know, and that's I probably should have mentioned that. So I'm starting up next month, going to Cornell University's online program for the diversity and inclusion certification. So I'm hoping to turn majority of my speaking gigs are diversity and inclusion.
Okay.
So I'm hoping to turn my speaking career into a training program where I can do different trainings at different corporations on how to incorporate diversity and inclusion into their hiring processes. So I am hoping that that's going to be something that I can transition into a real like corporate type foundation and structure, and something I can just be able to give to different organizations. So that's one thing that I'm hoping to be able to do eventually.
I'm sure you will. I know a lady that does something similar like that, and she's here in Richmond. She's a future guest on the show, and I mean, and I've seen her on CNN. You know, she's getting national exposure. So I can plug you that name later, and maybe a good person for you to connect with.
Yeah.
I forget what the other question was. I think there's one more quote here. Oh, okay. I've always been extremely small. Unfortunately, I had a lot of bullies that liked to just yell things at me when I walked in the hallways, talk about how large my feet were, how long my arms are, how small I am. It really affected me. It took me a long time to build up self-esteem. I understand that you, so Well, I don't know. My question didn't make any sense at the end. So
Okay.
the reason why, can you just expand on that?
Yeah.
I guess my question is, when you were growing up, were you the girly girl or the tomboy?
I was a tomboy. And that's because both my parents were in the military.
Okay.
So,
So you got it honest. You was just going to be in the military.
oh yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
so, same with my sister and my brother and my stepmom, all military. So
Okay.
it was something that was probably not going to not happen.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was a tomboy. I think the first time I wore like a dress was
Mm-hmm.
like 16 or 17 going to junior prom.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just have always been very covered up,
Mm-hmm.
only because I was always very self-conscious about being so thin and everyone around me reminding me that I was thin. So I think that's probably why pageantry was something that kind of came into my journey, is because it was a moment for me to be feminine and get in touch with that feminine side of myself that I never experienced because I was so focused on covering up myself because I did not like the way that my body looked.
Gotcha.
So I think that's very common. You know, we always talk about weight and weight and weight, but I think that sometimes people assume that people like being thin because the media and stuff like that has kind of set that standard of beauty. But a lot of, I think that being thin, especially growing up, was just a very terrible experience.
Understood.
But I was also very thin. I don't think I reached 100 pounds until I got to Virginia State my
Wow.
freshman year. I was that skinny.
Wow.
So self-esteem has been something that I've always kind of battled with over time. I
Well,
think
you don't look sick or nothing.
no, not now. Not now,
My
but
wife
back
would-
in the
My wife
day.
tells me I need to eat a hamburger every now and then too. So
Yeah, no, I remember getting even those conversations. People always say every time I go to my grandma's house, we gotta put some meat on you. It's like this the body y'all gave me. This
Yeah.
y'all genetics. So I don't know what you want.
Yeah.
But yeah, self-esteem is something I'm better at now at 29 and all that. But growing up in high school was just horrific.
yeah. With DeShauna, we are extremely happy that you came to visit
Thank
us while
you.
visiting the city of Richmond, Virginia. Gonna ask you a few little questions here as we close. And particularly since you're going to be back in the area here,
Yeah.
maybe you can speak to some of the places that you remember from college, because you was in the area
Okay.
for about 4 years. So,
Yeah.
did you have a favorite restaurant in
Oh,
Richmond?
Not in Richmond, because I never really made it up here
Okay.
that often. Oh, the
Richmond-
only thing I remember in Richmond was Off the Hookah.
Okay.
An old club, and
Yep.
I don't know if it's still there.
It's been a few things. It's
Okay, it's
something,
changed its
something
name
else.
a few times.
Yeah.
I remember going to Off the Hookah once or twice. So that's the only. Oh, and Colors. There was a club called Colors that
Okay.
I used to go to. So that was Richmond, but in Petersburg, Wabi Sabi has always been my favorite.
That's your spot?
Oh yeah, it's always
Okay.
been my favorite. And then
Okay.
Church's Chicken. They have jalapeno bombers there that I eat twice a day.
People be thinking little skinny folk don't eat, but you like to
yeah,
eat,
we
don't you?
eat. Yes,
You eating something on your
Fast
social media a lot. I'm like,
metabolism,
goodness gracious, you used to eat a lot.
Yeah.
Chicken or fish?
Fish. I'm pescatarian.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I only eat seafood.
Next question: you're not eating no beef or pork?
No,
Neither. Okay.
no.
What do you consider home, since you moved around a lot?
Probably Woodbridge, Virginia, where my dad lives,
Can,
because that's it.
can you speak of a hometown hero? Someone that you looked up to in your area that you grew up?
No. Yeah. I think that's just the army brat life, having to go from city to city. I don't know if I remember anyone.
Favorite food?
Crab legs.
Crab legs. You can eat like 1,000 of them and still
Oh,
not gain
yeah.
the 2 pounds.
Oh yeah, I
love
love
them
crab
too.
legs.
My
Yeah,
wife
snow
loves them
crab is
too.
where it's at.
Yep. If you want to get some crab legs, and because you're close by right now,
Yeah.
catch of the day down the street.
Catch of the day.
Catch of the day.
Okay, I'll note that.
There's some nice Asian folks in there. They'll give you some, a big grocery bag full,
Oh.
food line bag full of them, and you can go out and just
Yeah.
get going. It's a good bang
I
for the
might have
buck.
to look it up. I don't know. I might have to make a stop on the
Trust
way back.
me, it's worth it. Go to Catch of the Day.
Yeah.
And get you some steamed shrimp in there too.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite music.
Oh, R&B. I don't know if that sounds generic, but yeah, R&B. for
Favorite
sure.
artist.
Chris Brown. I can't
Yeah.
argue. Yeah.
Yeah.
People say, "Oh, he's kind of pop." I'm like, I don't care what y'all say. Chris Brown. He's my artist in any genre.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with Chris Brown.
Favorite place to hang out. Period. Anywhere.
Probably movies. I'm a moviegoer. I don't know if
Okay.
that counts like a place to hang out.
No,
yeah.
my wife loves the movies.
Yeah. I'm a movie person.
Yeah. I went to the movies recently with my son to watch Lion King.
Oh, okay.
And I was looking at him, and I was looking at him like if he was gonna cry, and he was looking at me
Aw.
like, "Why you about to get sad because
Oh.
Simba. Like I didn't watch. Listen, I don't watch TV at all, so I didn't even
Yeah.
watch the first Lion King. This was my first time ever
Oh, it's
watching.
your first time seeing
Yeah,
it.
so I was like, oh my god, this is horrible.
Oh man.
And it was real animals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't. Did you see it? The new one?
yeah, we saw it together,
It's
but I don't
not-
know. They're not real. They're
It looked
digital.
real. Wow, they
They're-
was
but yeah, no.
digitally real to me. I was like, wow, and I was just like, man, you can tell I don't get out the house much to watch movies because I was just blown away.
But you know, we were talking about this early after the movie was over. If you actually think about the storyline and the way like the dad was killed and all that,
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, Simba watching his dad die, it was actually pretty gruesome for a kid.
Oh my
I
god,
mean,
it was
think about
horrible.
it.
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sitting over there like,
Yeah, this is pretty messed up.
and my son is looking at me like, you better cry. I'm like,
Yeah, but you know when you think through a lot of the Disney movies, the storylines are pretty brutal for kids. But kids don't really understand it. But once you become an adult, you're like, you know, this is kind of sad on the low. Like it's pretty bad.
The next night we went back and watched Spider-Man, and
Spider-Man, okay,
he
yeah,
he loved that. It was the first
Yeah.
PG-13 movie he saw, so he's 7. So,
yeah.
all right, last question. Do you drink coffee?
Yes, I do.
Well, I got one more. Do you drink bourbon?
I drink bourbon a little bit. It's a little bit strong
What's your
though.
favorite alcohol?
Jack Daniels. I always drink
Yeah?
Jack Honey. It's the only thing that doesn't give me a hangover.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So I'm a Jack person.
I'm a gym person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jim Beam's okay. Yeah.
Jack just don't taste like. I just don't. I need to taste it. I need to
It
taste the
aligns
alcohol.
well with
Yeah, it
Jim
aligns.
Beam. Yeah, if anyone doesn't have Jack, they always say, "Oh, we want Jim Beam."
Yeah,
I'll take
but see,
that.
Jim, you taste it. You taste the alcohol.
Yeah.
Jack
But
and
it's kind
blend.
of sweeter though. It's almost too sweet in my
Well,
opinion.
we'll need to have a drink. We'll need to have a little
Yeah.
contest because I'm a connoisseur of bourbons and scotches.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's been coffee.
Oh, coffee. I always have white chocolate mocha from Starbucks.
White chocolate mocha. I get a caramel white chocolate mocha.
Okay, I didn't know they had a caramel.
I created it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
How'd you
mean,
create it? What do you mean? You
I told
created
them I wanted. It said I can have it. I see the sign says you can have it whatever
can
way you
add
want
it.
it.
Oh.
So I'll tell them to mix the caramel with the white chocolate. It's great.
Wow.
Now, if you really want to get a sugar high, they'll do the drizzle on top. You don't have to do the drizzle on top. That's a few extra calories that I'm not trying to get.
Okay.
But if they blend the white chocolate mocha with the caramel syrup, I'm
Yeah,
telling
that's
you
a
now,
lot.
it's a Starbucks product. Caramel white chocolate mocha, no
Uh-huh.
whip. I use non-fat milk there. Typical
Okay.
almond milk.
Fancy.
But non-fat's better. I'm a coffee person.
Yeah.
But that's it. DeShauna, thank you
taste
for
it.
being a guest on
Thank
Randy
you.
Wilson Podcast. How can they learn more about you, DeShauna?
They can definitely go to DeShauna.com.
Mm-hmm.
That's my website. And at DeShauna Barber on Instagram, at DeShauna Barber on Twitter, but I don't really be on Twitter like that. And then at DeShauna Barber on Facebook.
Hey, this is DeShauna Barber, 2016 Miss USA, Virginia State alumni. I was talking to some folks I work with down that way. They said she's in a sorority. Make sure she shouts at her sorority.
Yeah, Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated.
Yeah, we're getting ready to go do a podcast at Virginia State soon.
Oh,
with
nice.
Greek life. So,
Have fun.
really excited about that.
Yeah, that should be good.
Well, thank you for being on.
Thank you for
and,
having me.
you guys continue to stay tuned and watch the Randy Wilson Podcast. This was episode 11. And so stay tuned. Next, we're going to take the podcast on the road, and we're going to be visiting some of the local businesses in the city of Richmond and negotiating sponsorships, okay? So thank you for following. Remember, subscribe. Thanks, DeShauna.
Thank you.
I learned some things.
Yeah,
I learned a lot.
that was really good. I look forward to it. Make sure you send it over. And
I will. I can send you the link, and I can send you the file as well if you
That'd
want
be
to.
perfect. Thank you.
Whatever you prefer. I will tell you this, as I'm like I said. Well, I worked in media. I mean, in college I was